I can place all my trust in Him. I can trust Jesus. I can trust Jesus. He never once has failed to meet my need. He is my strong tower, the strength in my weakest hour. I can trust Jesus. He takes care of me. I have prayed some prayers and felt they were never heard. But I held to God's hands and kept right on trusting in His word. My wants and God's desires don't always agree, but I lean on His will, for He always knows what's best for me. I can trust Jesus. I can trust Jesus. He never once has failed to meet my need. He is my strong tower, the strength in my weakest hour. I can trust Jesus. He takes care of me.
Many times I've told the Lord, I can trust you. It's me I don't trust. You're going to have to make your way plain and clear. Thank you, girls, for that song. Matthew chapter 6 is where we'll be starting today. Matthew chapter 6, right in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount. And down around verse 19, Jesus says, "Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." Matthew chapter 5 had started, and seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, he opened his mouth and taught them, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, and blessed are they that mourn, and blessed are they which do hunger and thirst." And he moves on down through there and says, "You're the salt of the earth." And he says, "You have heard that it is said, love thy neighbor." And so all these things Jesus is telling through and teaching through the Sermon on the Mount. And then he comes and he says some commands. Lay not up for yourself treasures on earth. Lay up treasures in heaven. It wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't a you might consider this. It wasn't a what's your opinion on this concept, or shall we talk about it? Just a plain word from God. Lay not up for yourself treasures on earth, but lay up treasures in heaven. So why did he say this? Well, the old saying is, ours is not to question how or why, ours is but to do or die. But Jesus went ahead and he gave us the reason, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. And we know that's right, don't we? Our heart is where our treasure is. Or to say it in the negative, our heart isn't where our treasure isn't. Our love and our affections, our dedication, it's with our treasure. I'll pick up rocks on my own place. I wouldn't for any amount of money pick up rocks on the neighbors. My pickup, I'll wash it regular. I'll drive it smoothly. I change the oil. I kind of drive it like a grandpa. But give me a rent car, and I'm going to drive it like I stole it. Why? Where our treasure is, there our heart is. We know from experience, either personal or observed, that Jesus was right when he told us why we need to lay up treasures in heaven and not on earth. Because where our treasure is, there is our heart also. By now you know that I like to find truth from the New Testament and back it up in the Old. So turn with me to Genesis chapter 19 for a good illustration of why we should lay up treasures in heaven and not on earth. Genesis chapter 19, verse 15 says, "And when the morning arose," you'll recall from Genesis chapter 18 that Abraham is entertaining three strangers. They've come and they have a lunch of a fatted calf, and Sarah had made some cakes on the hearth. And then as they're about to leave, they said, "Should we not tell Abraham what we're fixing to do?" And they say, "The cry of Sodom is great, and we're going to go down there and we're going to investigate." And chapter 18 is the account of how Abraham intercedes. If there's 50, will you destroy? And if there's 45. And so we have Abraham interceding on behalf of his nephew Lot. Chapter 19 of Genesis begins with the arrival of the angels to Sodom. And due to the nastiness of the city, a general mayhem ensues. "And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain, escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, Oh, no, not so, my Lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in saving my life, and I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. Behold, now this city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. O let me escape thither. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. And he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city for the which thou hast spoken. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou become thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah fire and brimstone from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the city and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. She looked back and became a pillar of salt. She had been told, don't look back. And she'd even been led out of the city by the hand of an angel. Think of that, personally led out by the hand of an angel. And yet she looked back. Every time I read this, my heart aches for this. I know it's just an account that happened years ago, but my heart aches for this family. They were eating at the banquet of their choices, yes. They were reaping what they had sown, yes. And yet my heart aches. Lot had been deprived of his children that were left in Sodom. He was now deprived of his wife. The 2 remaining daughters had been deprived of their mother, and Mrs. Lot was deprived of her personal life. I'm sure it would have been a fast judgment from living to a pillar of salt. There was no second chance, no pleading with her, no begging with her, no one more course of almost persuaded not to look back. She just looked back and died. So why did she look back? Surely it's because back was where her treasure was. Back there was where her home was. It was the place of her dreams. Why, when the family had split from that old fogey religious uncle of his, they had pitched their tent towards Sodom. We read that in Genesis 13:12. Eventually, circumstances were such that they were able to dwell in Sodom from Genesis 14:12. And the house, why, it was a beautiful and strong house, secure. Note verses 3 and 10 of 19. It was modern. I'm sure that the kitchen had marble countertops. I'm sure that it had lots of custom cabinets. They could make a feast there, lots of storage. The bathroom off the master bedroom, it had a big claw tub, you know, those soaking tubs. And Lot, when he built it, had put in a picture window facing the west. So at the close of a long day, she could sit in there and take a bubble bath and watch the sunset. It wouldn't appeal to me, but it might have to her. And so Mrs. Lot treasured her home. And she looked back. Did she turn back for her friends? She had become involved in the PTA and the Bridge Club and the SSPCA. That's the Sodom Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. She knew people, the girl at the beauty shop who could set her hair perfectly, the butcher who made the best brats in the city. Following Lot to Zoar, she wouldn't have anybody to talk to, no games to play, no parties to attend. All my friends are back there. She treasured her friends. Back there, they had a reputation to treasure. Genesis 19:1 tells us that Lot sat in the gate. He was a somebody. They had made their mark on this town. They were outsiders, still they had been accepted enough to hold a respected position. He sat in the gate, the Bible says. So Mrs. Lot surely would have been on all the committees. She would have had a seat at the head table of the annual Lincoln Days. Her endorsement would have been coveted for whoever was running for mayor. In Zoar, nobody would know or care. But back there, she treasured her reputation back there. As they hurriedly left town that morning, there were some girls back there, her own flesh and blood. She'd carried them and borne them and nursed them and raised them and then married them off. Her girls and their husbands, there may have even been some grandkids, rosy cheeks and curly hair. And oh, they brought her joy. She had bought them toys and candy and clothes, carried their pictures everywhere, and blew up her Facebook with their latest witticisms. Now, some of this may be ministerially speaking, but the fact remains, she did leave family back there. Is it wrong to love your family? No, it was wrong to look back. When love for family gets in the way of obeying God and obeying His commands, the result is the same for any sin or any disobedience. And so, due to various reasons, when the family wouldn't heed the warning to flee, her treasured family was left back in Sodom. As the sun rose higher in the sky and they entered Zoar, Mrs. Lot remembered the fun and entertainment. Oh, she had treasured that. The fun and entertainment back in Sodom, the opera and the symphony. Thursday night at the minor league baseball diamond. Thursdays were dollar dog days. That's why she liked to go. And oh, that was fun, the Sodom Seagulls. They had white uniforms with yellow socks. And their ball caps had a long curved bill to keep with the whole idea of the Sodom Seagulls. There were the summer fairs and the winter carnivals, the spring socials and the fall festivals. Zoar, phooey. Well, they weren't much more civilized than Bug Tussle. How boring could you get? And so as her mind wandered back to the thrills and the fun and the entertainment at Sodom, she looked back. As they were being dragged away that morning at dawn, they had forgotten to grab the checkbook and the credit cards. They'd even forgotten the debit card. It was laying in her wallet by the bed. All she had found was a few dollars cash in one of her skirts, left over from a silent auction fundraiser, and she'd even forgotten it was there. All their money was in the Sodom Savings and Loan, and there was not a branch in Zoar. This was sure going to be different, having to think and worry about money. Why, back in Sodom, they had lots of money. No, resources sound nicer. They had lots of resources. Mucho moolah. And it was all back there. Back there. And so she looked. But Mrs. Lot hadn't left all that money. No, she had spent some of it. No, she had spent a fair amount of it on stuff. Treasures, you might say. She loved Egyptian antiques. She actually loved everything Egyptian. Money was no issue if it had been imported from Cairo. One of her prizes was matching leather shoes, purse, and gloves. It was the latest style. It cost a pile and come from a Nile crocodile. Furniture and cars and clothes and hats and closets and shelves and totes full of stuff. Paintings from Paris and rugs from Persia and brownings from Belgium. Stuff, stuff, and treasures of stuff left back in Sodom. Jesus would later say it this way, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. You say, Nathan, you've been pretty liberal in your interpretation of her heart and her treasures. Well, that's possible. But turn with me to Ezekiel chapter 16. Ezekiel chapter 16, verses 49 and 50 say, Behold, this was the iniquity of thy sister Sodom, pride, fullness of bread, abundance of idleness was in her and in her daughters. Neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor and needy, and they were haughty and committed abomination before me. Therefore I took them away as I saw good. The sins of Sodom, pride and fullness of bread, abundance of idleness, selfishness, haughtiness, abominations, each of these sins could have been manifested in the treasures I described. And some of them are from Genesis 19 too. But home and friends and reputation and family and entertainment, money, stuff. Whatever the reason, though, she did look back and instantly she received judgment for her actions. In all probability, it was the treasure of her heart that cost her. The treasure of her heart cost her. You know what this morning? It can cost us if we let it. What we treasure will determine our eternity. To treasure things of God will lead to heaven, while things of the world will lead to hell. Luke 17 tells us, verse 24, And Jesus said unto the disciples, The days will come when you shall desire to see one of the days of the Son of Man, and you shall not see it. And they shall say to you, See here or see there. Go not after them, nor follow them. For as the lightning that lighteth out of one part under heaven shineth unto the other part under heaven, so shall also the Son of Man be in his day. But first must he suffer many things and be rejected of this generation. And as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the Son of Man. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise also as it was in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. In that day he which shall be upon the housetop, and his stuff in the house, let him not come down to take it away. And he that is in the field, let him likewise not return back. Remember Lot's wife. Whosoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it, and whosoever shall lose his life shall preserve it. I tell you, in that night there shall be two men in one bed. The one shall be taken, and the other shall be left. Two women shall be grinding together. The one shall be taken, and the other left. Two men shall be in the field. The one shall be taken, and the other left. And they answered and said unto him, Where, Lord? And he said unto them, Wheresoever the body is, thither will the eagles be gathered together. The turn back danger is real. So much so that Jesus told us, remember Lot's wife. Remember how she had a chance. Remember how she was led away from judgment. Remember how the treasures of her heart cost her. Remember how she turned back. Remember how she was lost forever. All because she turned back to where her heart was, where her treasures were. We sang about it in most of our singing this morning. But today we're all living life, much like the days of Noah and the days of Lot. We are in the midst of occupying till Jesus comes. There's people getting married, there's people buying, there's people selling, planting, building. Today, in the midst of all that, we all have things that we treasure, things that we hold dear. And it's not wrong to own things. It's not wrong to have things we value. What's wrong is when the things we value own us. Stuff in and of itself is not sin. It's when it gets in the way of what God says. Because today, Jesus will call us. He might call us with the rapture. He might call us with the grave. I suspect not. Probably it will just be to obey, to step out for salvation, for sanctification, for sacrificial conviction, a call to special ministry, or more likely, just a call to a closer, deeper walk with Him. The possibilities are endless. Only you know what He's telling you, asking you. Only I know what He's asking me. So what is our response? Will we turn back to worldly treasure? Or will we gladly obey, going full steam ahead? Jesus told us, remember Lot's wife, so that we'll never turn back. We need to lay up for ourselves treasures in heaven, because where our treasure is, there will our heart be also. We can make it. We have no reason to quit. There's nothing back there we need to look at or look for. Let's stand. Let's close with I have decided to follow Jesus. Let's start. To follow Jesus, I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. No turning back, no turning back. Nothing back there we need, is there? You're dismissed.